Hello, good morning. Still there is little. Good morning, everyone. We are coming to you live via Facebook streaming, via YouTube streaming, and also via Skype group. Each one of you is welcomed. We are at the threshold of the holy month of Ramzan. Many blessings to you for the upcoming season. Silence and blissfulness. Silence and blissfulness. Is there any relationship between silence and blissfulness? No, there isn't any relationship. Indeed, they are two names of the same reality. Never explain yourself to anyone. The criteria for blissfulness. Never explain yourself to anyone. You do not need the approval of anyone else to live your life. Live your life and do whatsoever makes you happy. Live your life and do whatsoever makes you happy. Only you can rise to the heights of consciousness and awareness. Only you can rise to the level of consciousness and awareness. The more you belong to the crowd, the more you belong to the crowd, you fall deeper in darkness. Never belong to the crowd. The more you get in tune with the crowd, you will be falling deeper in the darkness. Live your life in harmony with yourself. Bliss will happen, and you will be in harmony with the existence. You will be in harmony with the whole. We go on judging people on a day-to-day, on a moment-to-moment basis. Never judge anyone. Never judge anyone, because judging anyone lowers your vibrational frequency, your vibrational energy. Judging others lowers your vibrational frequency. Instead of judging, discern with compassion. Discern with compassion, and you will vibrate on the frequency of love. Discern with love, and you will vibrate on the frequency of love. Love will blossom. There is no relationship between silence and blissfulness because both are the same thing. They are the two names of the same reality, same existence. Silence is blissfulness. However, in dictionaries, they seem to be different. They seem to differ from one another. In actual experience, silence and blissful cannot be different. As you become silent, worries, tensions, misery, noise, chattering, and clutter of the mind disappears. And when they disappear, there is silence. And blissfulness is the fragrance of silence. The moment you are silent, bliss happens. Never judge others. Because the moment you judge someone, it lowers your vibrational frequency, your vibrational energy. Instead, discern with compassion. Let the compassion be your guiding principle. Your vibrational energy will increase tremendously. It will soar to infinite quantum. When you become silent, worries, tension, misery, noise, clattering of the mind, and chattering all disappear. And what remains there? Silence. Bliss manifests as the fragrance of silence. And when all these stupid activities that you are very proud that I am intention, this person makes me miserable, I am worried. When all these activities suddenly drop, and they are no more. Silence simply clears the ground for blissfulness to be discovered. The fragrance of blissfulness that was hiding suddenly becomes prominent. Both silence and blissfulness are almost same phenomena because they happen simultaneously. As you become silent, certain sweetness, certain fragrance, certain beatitude spontaneously arises in you. The moment you are silent, suddenly this happens to you, and you begin to overflow a different kind of sweetness, a fragrance, a different kind of demeanor. All these spontaneously begin to overflow from you. But your silence should not be a repressed stillness. There is a vast difference between repressed stillness and silence. Your silence should not be there by force. Silence implies you have repressed your mind. You have repressed your mind. Then, rather than doing the meditation, you are doing a gymnastic to control the mind. You are fighting with the mind. By fighting with the mind or doing all kind of gymnastics, you cannot attain to silence. It is possible. It is very possible that you can force the mind to be silent. But then, in that repressed silence, their blissfulness will not overflow. Blissfulness overflows when the silence is spontaneous. There will be just emptiness. If you have repressed, there will be just emptiness and the silence of the graveyard. Your silence need to be singing and dancing silence. If you repress, if your silence is repressed, there will be emptiness and silence of the graveyard, not the silence of the garden. Cemetery, the graveyard has its silence, and garden too have a silence. In the garden, there is a different kind of emptiness, and that emptiness is overflowing. That overflows the fragrance, the beauty. Silence that emerges out of meditation is not an empty experience. The silence that emerges out of meditation is not an empty experience. It is positive, it is overflowing, it is fulfilling, and that is what there. And what is there to overflow in silence? Nothing else but blissfulness. What overflows in silence is blissfulness, bliss as the fragrance of silence. If your silence is not bringing blissfulness, then your silence is forced, it is wrong. Certainly blissfulness is the criteria of the silence, the nature of the silence that you have attained to. Then doing becomes absent. There is cessation. In meditation, silence overflows spontaneously. It comes to the surface on its own accord. You simply go on watching the mind, whatsoever it is happening, without any prejudice, without any judgment. Remember, when you judge someone, it lowers your vibrational frequency. Even if you're judging your own mind, the events, whatsoever is happening in your mind, judging, I mean, not observing. There is a difference between judging and observing. In that observing, something happens. But in judging, your vibrational frequency is lowered. Watch your mind with compassion. You will start moving on a different note. In meditation, silence comes on its own accord. You simply go on watching the mind without any control of repression, judgment, or anything. Silence will suddenly, just like a breeze, will come. And with the silence, with the breeze, comes the fragrance of the flowers. Breeze becomes the carrier for the fragrance of the flowers. This fragrance of the flowers is your blissfulness. The fragrance of the flower that comes to your nostrils is the fragrance of blissfulness, and your heart becomes elated. It is your own fragrance. It's not coming from anywhere else. Just something is uncovered deep within you, and it is the fragrance of your being. It is your own fragrance which you are not capable of knowing because of so much noise, so much disturbance within. Now as all that obstruction is no more, suddenly the fragrance is reaching you. The mind was creating so much of fuss. The thoughts were creating dark clouds within. The thoughts were creating dark clouds of emotions and moods. Every moment the moods were changing. It became almost like a thick barrier, an opaque layer between you and your real self, between you and your reality, between you and your being. And the moment the barrier is removed, as if you have removed a rock, a big rock that was preventing the stream, a fountain, to overflow. Bliss overflows like the fountain. Bliss overflows like the fountain. And the moment the rock is removed, suddenly the fountain bursts forth, and great joy, great dance begins to happen. Your blissfulness is not something that comes from outside. Blissfulness is not something that comes from outside. Instead, it springs forth from deep within you. Just like the rocks of your mind, its thoughts and miseries are removed, something begins to overflow. And that which overflows is blissfulness. It is not that you have to repress it, because by repressing you are repressing the fountain behind it too. Silence is that. Silence is all that is needed, and everything else begins to flow on its own accord. The moment mind is silent, there is no noise, there is no disturbance, the clatter of the mind. And for this you need not explain yourself to anyone. You do not need anyone's approval. Just do what appeals to you the most. Do all that makes you happy. Only then you can rise to the height of consciousness. When you do all that makes you happy, you can rise to the height of consciousness and awareness. The more you become aware, the more you are away from the crowd. Because the more you belong to the crowd, you fall in the darkness. You fall in the darkness, and the more you are an individual, not part of the crowd, in the same proportion, blissfulness overflows. Therefore, live in harmony with your innerness. Live in harmony with your innerness, bliss will overflow, and you will fall in harmony with the existence. You will fall in harmony with God. For this, never judge anyone, not even your own mind, because it lowers your vibrational energy. Judging others will lower your vibrational energy. Instead of judging, discern, observe, be a witness with compassion. whatsoever is happening with you as well. And you will begin to overflow. You will begin to move on the frequency that love is, frequency that understanding is. Love is understanding. You will begin to vibrate on the frequency of love. Life will become a benediction. Life will become a benediction. Only this much for this morning. Until we meet again, take care and do have a pleasant day.